Hey guys, so the next step is going to be creating the Highscore code. So to begin, we actually need to first add code to make the Highscore work before we give the code to show how the number art should look like. So first we're going to go ahead and code that. So we're going to first make a variable. We're going to leave it for all sprites and we're going to call this Highscore. We're going to click OK. Once you do, you're going to go ahead and check this off and hide it since we don't actually need it because we will be making art with it. And the next step that we're going to do is now code the art so that our Highscore works. So we're going to go inside the yellow events tab and we're going to use when green flag clicked. You want to go into control and add a forever. And we're going to add an if then. So we're going to check to see if our score is higher than our Highscore. That's when we want to change it. So we're going to use the greater than symbol. For the empty bubble, we're going to be using score. And for the 50, we're going to be using the Highscore bubble. Then we're going to add a set Highscore to score. So now we've coded our Highscore to save it and to work for us. This will also make sure that it will always save your Highscore after leaving the game. So you won't have to worry about losing what was your highest score. So the next thing we're going to do now is actually code the number art so that it shows it. So to do this, we're going to go back to the yellow events tab, use when green flag clicked. We're going to go inside of the blue motions tab and add a go to, just so that we tell exactly where we want it to go. And it's going to go on the other side of our screen. Again, you want to make sure that anything that you add is away from the main screen because you want to make sure that your player can see as much of the game as possible. So our X is going to be 210 and our Y is going to be negative 165. Again, you guys can always click on the green flag, test it out, see if you like exactly where it is. If not, you can always move it with your mouse, check to see the new X and Y position, and then add it inside of this blue block. Once you're done, you're going to go inside of the yellow events tab. The control tab. You're going to add a create clone of myself. Then you're going to add a forever under that. And then you're going to add an if then else. Once you're done adding the if then else in the diamond shape, you're going to go ahead and go into operators, use the less than. On the empty bubble, we're going to go into variable and add the Highscore. And for the 50, we're going to go ahead and change it to 10. Once you're done, you're going to go into looks and add a switch costume to 0, and then another switch costume on the else, but this time we're going to go into operators, use letter 1 of apples, and for the apple, we're going to go ahead and go back into our variables and add the Highscore bubble. Once you're done with that, we're going to move on to the last step. So we're going to go into control and add when I start as a clone. We're going to go into the blue motions tab and add a change X by 18. Again, you can test out to see how much space that gives you between the numbers. The reason why it didn't work for me was because my font is actually a little bit bigger. So you might still want to try this 18 if you guys used a little bit of those skinnier fonts to see if that works. If not, you can always just make this number higher in order to give it a little bit more space between numbers. So again, something else you guys can test out. We're going to go ahead and go into control, add a forever. Inside of the forever, we're going to add an if then else. We're going to go into operators and use a less than. The 50 is going to be a 10, and the empty bubble is going to be our Highscore bubble. Next, we're going to go into looks and add a switch costume to 0 to each of the brackets of our if then else. After that, we're going to go into operators, use letter 1 of apple and add it to each of them. The second bracket with the else, we're going to change this one to a 2. And then the last thing we're going to do is add the Highscore bubble to each of the apple. Okay. As always, you guys can go ahead and test this out. Again, making sure that the number has the right amount of space that you need. and that you have the correct position that you want them on before you're done kind of finalizing this code, just to test everything out. The next step we're going to go ahead and do is create the icon for the Highscore, just to help separate the difference between the score and the Highscore just a little bit more.